Terence Crawford, amazing effort against Canelo, who also had an amazing effort. Terence Crawford unanimously won that championship. So how, in fact, is it 2.5 months later that he's no longer the champion of the World Boxing Confederation? Because he didn't pay a fee?
WWE President Nick Khan is leaving no doubt about where he stands in boxing's biggest new war. He has gone on the record to expose the WBC's shocking decision to strip Terence Crawford, calling the entire situation absolute nonsense. He's made it clear that stripping an undefeated champion over a fee isn't just a rule. It's a scam. This isn't just about a belt anymore. It's a corporate takeover. And Nick Khan is ready to help Crawford expose the truth once and for all.
It's only in this sport of boxing where you see nonsense like this.
Boxing is the only major sport on earth where you can win the championship game and still lose the title because of administrative fees. The WBC's decision to strip Crawford highlights the absolute absurdity of the alphabet soup era of boxing. Crawford went up to 168 pounds and defeated Saul Canelo Alvarez. That is a historical fact. He held the belt. He raised it in the ring. However, Mauricio Sulaiman and the WBC board decided that physical dominance doesn't matter as much as their bottom line. By stripping Crawford, they have essentially turned their own belt into a participation trophy for whoever is willing to pay the most. It exposes a dark truth about the sport. These sanctioning bodies operate less like governing organizations and more like for-profit businesses selling leather straps to the highest bidder. Crawford didn't lose his skills overnight. He didn't fail a drug test. He just closed his wallet. And for the WBC, that is the ultimate sin.
Terence Crawford is no longer undisputed, and the reason why is everything that's wrong with boxing. The WBC has stripped Terence Crawford of his belt. Was he defeated? No, never. Did he test positive for steroids? Of course not. What he did do was refuse to pay them $300,000 for basically existing. Sanctioning bodies are the people who own all the belts. WBC, WBO, WBA, IBF. They're famously corrupt, make rules that make no sense, create mandatories, have rules that apply more to some fighters and less to others, and they deserve no money. But they take a percentage of every fight they sanction for one of their belts. And Terence Crawford actually was willing to pay a fee, just not the fee they were demanding. And I think if I'm an organization that does basically nothing, and somebody out there is literally risking their lives, and all I do is give them a belt, and they are willing to give me any money at all for my troubles, I should shut up, be happy, and take the money and smile. But no, they had to strip him his belt, and now they're gonna give it to somebody who absolutely definitely doesn't deserve it. Just like they kinda just stripped Usyk of his belt. This is why we don't have undisputed fighters enough, and this is a huge problem with boxing, and this is why all the sanctioning bodies have to go. I'm not saying TKO and the whole Zuffa Boxing Saudi League thing is the answer, but we need an answer because there's a problem, and Terence Crawford stood up to them. Good for him.
Here is where the numbers get interesting and insulting. Typically, these sanctioning bodies demand a substantial cut of a fighter's purse, usually around 3%. When you are talking about a fight the size of Crawford versus Canelo, where Crawford allegedly walked away with $50 million, that 3% fee would have been astronomical. It would have been millions of dollars just to have the WBC logo on the screen. According to Sulaiman, the WBC tried to be generous. In a statement from their convention in Thailand, Sulaiman claimed they capped the fee at a modest $300,000, reducing the percentage to just 0.6%. They viewed this as a favor. They sent invoice after invoice to Crawford's team, expecting a thank you note and a check. Instead, they got absolute silence. Crawford ghosted them. He didn't acknowledge the receipt, he didn't negotiate, and he certainly didn't pay. He ignored them completely for 2 fights in a row, including his bout against Israel Madrimov. To the WBC, this was blatant disrespect. To everyone else, it looked like Crawford was finally calling their bluff.
He petitioned to fight a final elimination bout in super welterweight against Madrimov and remain champion in welter. The WBC supported him. He did not comply with the rules. Then he moves up to super middle and makes the fight of the century, beats Canelo, makes $50 million or around that. The WBC absolutely is not going to charge 3% of such an amount. We made a very clear 0.6%, which is $300,000, with $225,000 going to the Jose Sulaiman Boxers Fund, which is to help former fighters in need. And it is just regrettable. Not even a thank you or I'm sorry, taking a different route, no response. I wish him the best. But this is not. The WBC is huge, it's great, it's about greatness, and I'm relieved, to tell you the truth.
When the news broke that he was stripped, Crawford didn't issue a polite press release. He went on Instagram Live and delivered a scorched earth rant that will likely be quoted for years. He completely tore down the facade of the prestige of the green belt. Filming from his car, Crawford laughed at the idea that he owed Mauricio Sulaiman an apology. His exact words were ruthless, telling the WBC president to slap himself for thinking he was owed a dime.
I see Mauricio, got a lot to say about me not paying him $300,000 plus another $100K something for sanction fees, right? Then he gonna tell me I ain't even apologize. Like, who the fuck you think I am? Boy, you better slap your fucking self.
But Crawford took it a step further than just complaining about the money. He exposed exactly where he thinks that money goes. In a moment of raw honesty, Crawford accused the sanctioning body executives of using these fees to fund lavish rock star lifestyles. He described them flying private, staying in luxury hotel suites, and eating five-star dinners, all paid for by the fighters who are the ones actually risking brain damage in the ring. He pointed out the hypocrisy of a guy in a suit living like a king while the athletes bleed for the paycheck. He called the belt a trophy and made it clear he is the attraction, not the plastic and gold strap around his waist.
Fuck you talking about pay you $300,000? What makes you so motherfucking better than any of the other sanctioned bodies? Huh? Answer that question. What makes you better than the WBO, the IBF, or the WBA? Everybody accepted what I was giving them. But you, the WBC, think that you better than everybody, don't you? So since you, the WBC, and you got the fucking green belt, which don't mean fucking shit. The fucking real belt is the ring belt, which is free, motherfucker. What are you talking about? You want me to pay you more than the other sanctioned bodies because you feel like you better than them. How in the world all the sanctioned bodies agree to the same amount, but you sit your motherfucking ass up there and say that I need to apologize to you? The fuck? You can take the fucking belt. It's a trophy anyway.
This creates a massive problem for the WBC because Crawford isn't fighting this battle alone. He has some serious corporate artillery backing him up. Nick Khan, the president of WWE and a key figure in TKO, which owns both WWE and UFC, stepped into the fray during an appearance on the Pat McAfee show. When Nick Khan speaks, the sports entertainment industry listens, and he didn't mince words. He called the entire situation nonsense. Khan used an analogy that perfectly dismantled the WBC's logic for the average fan. He asked viewers to imagine the Los Angeles Dodgers fighting through a grueling 7-game World Series to win the championship. Then, imagine Major League Baseball coming to them a week later and saying, "Hey, you didn't pay the admin fee, so you aren't the World Series champions anymore." It sounds insane because it is. Khan pointed out that boxing is the only sport where this level of incompetence is tolerated.
Where Terence Crawford was stripped of his titles because he didn't pay a fee back to the World Boxing Confederation or whatever it is for $300,000. So they stripped his title because he didn't pay them that amount of cash afterwards. And so he's not the champion because he didn't pay them. They stripped him, whatever the case. It seems like really odd timing that this news gets released right now when tomorrow, I believe, there is a conversation conversation happening in Congress about a little bit of an evolution of this or a revival of this particular act. And I know Zuffa is a massive piece of this, but you're not the only ones. There's a lot of boxers that are backing this. There's a lot of people in the boxing business that are backing it. There are retractors, obviously. Can you tell me about what you guys are trying to do and why people would not want you to do it that are in the boxing world?
Of course. So first of all, on the Terence Crawford side, you watched that fight on Netflix on September 13th. Terence Crawford, amazing effort against Canelo, who also had an amazing effort. Terence Crawford unanimously won that championship. So how, in fact, is it 2.5 months later that he's no longer the champion of the World Boxing Confederation? Because he didn't pay a fee? That would be akin to the Los Angeles Dodgers, whether you're a Dodger fan or not, having won a grueling 7-game World Series in one of the greatest Game 7s of all time. It would be like if Major League Baseball came to them and said, well, you didn't pay us a fee, so you're no longer the World Series champion. It's only in this sport of boxing where you see nonsense like this.
By publicly siding with Crawford, Khan signaled that the heavyweights of the sports business are tired of the old boxing model. They see it as broken, archaic, and ripe for a takeover. The biggest damage here isn't to Crawford's legacy, it's to the WBC's brand. The value of a championship belt relies entirely on the public believing that the person holding it is the best fighter in the world. When the consensus pound-for-pound king tells the world that your belt is worthless, people start to believe him. Crawford explicitly stated that the only belt that matters is the Ring magazine title. Why? Because the Ring belt is free. You don't pay sanctioning fees for it, you just have to be the best.
It's free! It's free! How you love that? $180,000 free. How much your belt cost? I wonder, how much your belt cost? Huh? I don't see no receipts on your belt. It's crazy. Y'all be having so much taxes on these belts. You got some nerves. It's crazy that you can sit up there and have all these belts. You know, you got the WBC silver, the WBA intern, the whatever belt y'all got, and you taxing these fighters every time they fight, and you claim that you for these fighters. You're not for these fighters. You probably worse than the promoters. But hey, I wish you the best.
By distinguishing between the paid belts and the earned belts, Crawford is devaluing the WBC's product. He questioned what makes the WBC better than the IBF, WBA, or WBO. He pointed out that every other organization accepted what he was willing to pay, but the WBC acted like they were special. This rhetoric is dangerous for Sulaiman. If fighters realize they can be stars without paying the tax to the WBC, the entire business model collapses. Crawford is proving that his name on the marquee is worth more than the alphabet soup letters on the poster.
So I do think the organizations, the sanctioning bodies, have to be a sort of necessary evil, but deals have to come to the table when you're talking about this kind of money, because like Crawford said, he's the one risking his life, he's the one taking the punches. The Ring magazine title is free. It's the one you don't have to pay for, but it also has no power. There's no fights that are ever enforced by the Ring title. You know, you can't. The Ring, that was always my problem with the Ring title. When even in the days when HBO used to push it and stop mentioning sanctioning bodies by name, and all there was a push in the boxing media. That's why if you notice that era of fighters in the Mayweather era, there wasn't a lot of undisputed champions. It was because the fad of the day, because that's what boxing is. It's just the latest fad. That's what they go by. Today it's just cool. Tomorrow something else is cool. Back then it was uncool to go for the sanctioning body, so you didn't see a lot of undisputed champions at that time. Now the sanctioning bodies have become cool again, so you see more fighters unifying and looking to create undisputed titles. At that time, I remember HBO, ESPN, even with Friday Night Fights, they wouldn't mention the sanctioning bodies by name. They would just go by the Ring magazine title. And my problem was the Ring magazine title had no power. You know, it was cool to have, but you could never enforce a 1 and 2 first fight. There was no way to enforce it. And what's worse is they wouldn't strip they'd never strip if the main guy at the top never fought the number one or number two guys, you know. So or if he wanted to take a year off and not defend the title at all, they just wouldn't strip him. I think the ring title also is problematic, even if it's free, you know. So like I said, I think there's got to be a middle ground where, you know, people have to know how to meet in the middle, and sometimes egos get in the way, and sometimes greed gets in the way.
This is where the story shifts from a boxing drama to a massive industry shakeup. This isn't just about $300,000. Nick Khan and TKO are currently pushing for legislation in Congress called the Muhammad Ali American Boxing Revival Act. Their goal is to create a unified boxing organization, UBO. Essentially, they want to run boxing the same way they run the UFC or WWE, under one banner with one set of champions, eliminating the need for the corrupt, fractured sanctioning bodies. Khan is using the Crawford controversy as ammunition. He is showing this to politicians and the public as proof that the current system is corrupt and needs to be abolished. By highlighting how the WBC operates, demanding fees, stripping champions, and allegedly living the high life on fighter pay, TKO is building a case to cut them out of the equation entirely. Crawford refusing to pay the fee might just be the first shot in a war that ends with the total extinction of the WBC, WBA, and IBF.
With the Muhammad Ali Enhancement Act, what we're looking to do, everything that the act already has will stay the same. If you're a fighter and you want to do it the old way, with the World Boxing Confederation. And by the way, the gentleman who runs that organization, this is supposed to be a nonprofit organization, going into Canelo Crawford, said he couldn't stay in a regular hotel room. He needed a suite. He wanted to make sure that his tickets were front row. He wanted to make sure there were ample number of tickets. It all seems quite odd to me that a sport would be run that way, or quite odd to us. So in the Enhancement Act, all of that, if you're a fighter and you want to continue with it, nothing changes. This is presenting a different option, where if you want to come into a unified boxing organization like Zuffa or anyone else who wants to create a unified boxing organization, come here, fight with us. We'll have our own ranking system. The champion will fight the number one contender, just like in the UFC. And if the number one contender is not available, then the champion fights the number two contender. So rather than 17 weight classes and 15 different championships and people getting stripped for no reason, let's do it in a credible way.
Mauricio Suleiman thought he was disciplining a rebellious fighter. Instead, he might have just signed the death warrant for his organization's relevance. Crawford kept his $300,000, he kept his reputation as the best in the world, and he gained a powerful ally in the WWE president. The WBC, on the other hand, looks greedy, outdated, and petty.
Able to happen, because right now there's what? The WBO, the WBA, the WBC, the IBF, and the Ring all have their own rankings, and then they kind of are the ones who decide who gets titles, who doesn't get titles. They kind of run it all. What you guys are saying is, yes, we would just like to add a new ranking system as well. Like, what would be the detractors of this? Why would people not want this to go through if you're just adding to something as opposed to maybe eliminating things?
So number one, the Ring magazine does it right. So the Ring model is based on the model, we're basing our model in part on the Ring's model, which again, the champion fights the number one contender. The lineal champion, if you will. To be the man, you got to beat the man. Not to make this about Ric Flair, but that's exactly what you have to do for the Ring championship belt. It would be the same thing in Zuffa. So detractors, anyone, and you know this, you've seen it with your own show on ESPN. When someone comes in to disrupt, the people who aren't by nature disruptors don't like it. So what do? They say, hey, he doesn't do it this way, or why is Pat McAfee not doing it that way? Whatever the things that have annoyed you over the course of time, many of which we've had private conversations of, sometimes it's multiple things in one day, that's all normal. So you've disrupted. And by the way, your viewership numbers and your ratings are reflective of the great disruption that you've caused.
Come on,
significant viewers.
We might be looking back at this moment as the turning point where the power finally shifted back to the fighters. When the history books are written, the paper belt scandal might be the catalyst that finally cleans up the sport of boxing. Crawford doesn't need the WBC, but the WBC desperately needed Crawford, and now they've lost him forever. So that's all from today's video. If you enjoyed it, remember to leave a like, subscribe, and ring that bell icon so you never miss our upcoming videos. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comment section. Stay tuned, and we will catch you in the next video.